Hello, and welcome to another X-Pro tutorial for SolidWorks modeling. In the previous tutorial, we learned how to start sketching, drawing, and how to use a line command. We also learned how to add relations to those sketches and how to fully define sketches. In this tutorial, we will continue in the same way. We will learn how to use other sketch tools such as circle, square, rectangle, and so on. Let's begin by selecting a new part. As always, I will be using millimeters for drawing. Let's start sketching on the front plane. We will begin by going for the circle command in the tab called Sketch. The way you start a command is the same as you would do for the line. So, left-click, drag, and then left-click again. Or hold the left click and release E. So the command stays active until you press Escape. Now, let's select entities. So if I go from left to right, it will select only the things that are fully submerged, let's say, inside of this. But if I go from right to left, I will select everything in this square. So let's select all these entities. There are two ways of adding dimensions to sketches in SolidWorks. First one is using Smart Dimensions. So let's select it and click on the circle. Let's say this is 60 millimeters. The other way you can do it is by directly entering the value. I will start the circle command and start dragging. Don't click anything. And you see that this small white rectangle appears with some numbers inside, so I can simply type in, for example, 60 and press enter, and this value will automatically be added as a diameter of this circle. The way you can activate this option is by going to Options, System Options, Sketch. You have to make sure that these two are checked. So enable on-screen numeric input and create dimensions only when value is entered. Now, let's draw one more circle, but let's snap the center of the circle to the origin point and add a dimension, for example, 70 millimeters. The same way, you can switch from a full line to the center line and backwards. You can do the same here with the circles. So left-click or right-click, it doesn't matter. You can select Construction Geometry here. Let's click again. And now you see, I have a center line circle. Let's draw one more circle anywhere here. I don't have to add dimensions for now. Let's see what kind of relations I can add between these two circles. For example, I will hold Control and select both of them. I can say that they are tangent, and now you can see that their edges will always be touching. If I want to make this sketch fully defined, I can say that these 2 points are horizontal. I can either add a value to this circle, or I can say that these two are equal. Let's see what other relations I can use. So I can say that these two are corradial, but I don't want it because I will have overlapping. I can say that these two are concentric. This means that the centers of these two circles will be in the same point. And now, I can drag this inner circle outwards or inwards. For example, I can add a dimension between these two. Let's say that this is 10 millimeters. I will draw center line, starting from the origin upwards. I don't have to add any dimensions. Let's draw a small circle here anywhere. Now hold it in the center and make it look something like this. We can activate the Smart command. What I want is to add a dimension from this vertical line to this outer edge of the circle. So I will start Smart Dimension, hold Shift, and select this line, and then the circle while holding Shift. Now let's say that this is 5 millimeters. I can add this dimension here, for example, 30. And to fully define the sketch, I have to add the diameter of the circle, let's say, 25. Now we have a fully defined sketch. I can change the way this dimension works by clicking on it in the Dimension tab and going here. For arc condition, you can change it to center. Now you can see that this dimension is going from the center of the circle all the way to the center line. Or let's say max, which will move the dimension to this other outer edge of the circle. Let's delete these dimensions. What if I want this dimension to be a radius instead of a diameter? I can simply click on it and say, Display as radius. Now it's changed because we had 25, but I can simply enter 15, for example, or I can click on the dimension and go to liters, and here change to diameter or radius. This is all for circle. Let's go to the rectangle. Firstly, activate this drop-down menu. You have several options here, but today we will be going through corner rectangle and center rectangle. Let's start with corner rectangle. The way you activate the command is the same way as for the circle. You can notice that the corner rectangle starts drawing from one corner and ends on the opposite side, diagonally in this corner here. I will just draw one corner rectangle here, so you can see the difference. A center rectangle has these two diagonal central lines and a point in the middle, while the corner rectangle doesn't have these. But basically, they are the same thing. Let's delete this one. I can use this point here for adding snapping points. For example, to this origin, I will double-click the scroll button on my mouse to change my view. What I can do as far as relations go for the rectangle is, for example, I can say that these two lines are equal. To fully define the sketch, I have to add only this dimension, which is 40 millimeters. But if I, for example, click on this vertical line and click on equal relation, I can say delete. I can move this rectangle, actually extend it upwards and downwards. But let's say that they are equal. Same for a simple line and a circle. You can change these lines to construction geometry by clicking on them and changing back the real lines. Same way as you do for standard lines. Let's delete this square and activate corner rectangle again. So if I want to use quick dimension input, the way I showed you for your circle, here you have to input two dimensions, so left, click, drag. You see that first dimension you can input is the one for the vertical line. The second one will be for the horizontal line. For example, I can type in 35 here, and then press tab and enter 50, for example, and then press enter. If I would have entered 35 and then press enter, it will switch automatically to the horizontal dimension of, let's say 40, enter. This is the way you can use fast dimensions or on-screen numeric input for rectangles. Let's delete this square here. And let's say I want this rectangle symmetrically positioned according to the origin point. The way I can do this is by hovering somewhere over the middle of this horizontal line and holding Ctrl select this point, the origin point, and let's say make these two vertical. I can still move this. I have an underdefined sketch. Now I will hover over the middle of the vertical line, hold Control, hold this, select this point, and select origin, let's say horizontal. Now, again, we have a fully defined sketch. If I want to add a sort of dome or an arc from this point to this point, I can use sketch tool called arc. There are three options. There is center point arc, tangent arc, and 3-point arc. Let's, for example, start with 3-point arc. I will select it, and I will select this point, and then drag anywhere I can add an on-screen dimension. But I will not do it now. I'll just click anywhere here. You can see that I can drag the arc anywhere I want, because it is underdefined. What I want to do is, for example, add a tangent relation between the arc and this vertical line. Now, it's fully defined if I use tangent arc, for example, from this point and drag it, the way an arc would look like. To this point, I will immediately have a fully defined sketch, because tangent arc immediately adds this relation. Okay, let's see what relations we have in this sketch. I can right-click and say, Display, Delete Relations. All in this catch are selected, and let's see what we have. Horizontal for this line. Here we have vertical lines. These are automatically added for the rectangle. And we have a tangent relation between the arc and this vertical line. Also the same on the other point, and one more tangent relation for this tangent arc we drew. You can delete these relations all at once, or you can select any of them. For example, this tangent relation, click delete on your keyboard. The same thing will happen. So let's delete to this tangent also. You can drag this arc. The other way I can fully define this arc is by adding a smart dimension, for example, 20. And now it is fully defined, but is not tangent to these horizontal lines. Let's delete everything in this sketch and go to the next tool called Slot. When you activate the drop-down menu, you get 4 of these straight slot, 3-point arc slot, and center point arc slot. When you select any of them, a menu will appear here where you can again select any of these 4. But let's say we start using a straight slot. Another option you have here is to add dimensions, center to center, or to the overall length. But let's keep it from center to center. I will select the straight slot. The way you activate the command is the same. So left-click, drag, and left-click. And then you have to add the bit, so just drag it and left-click again. Or if you want to try the center point straight slot, you start by drawing from the center of the slot outwards. Let's see what relations we can add between these two. For example, first, I will hold this slot here and move it to the origin point. Sorry. That click. For some reason, I cannot move it. Let's delete it and draw it once more. So, straight slot here to here. And let's say these two are coincident. Okay? Now, let's click on this point. Hold a Ctrl and click on this point and see what options we have. For example, we can make these two slots horizontal. We can make them equal. Having two equal slots means that overall length is the same and the overall width as well. Let's add some smart dimensions. For example, this can be 25 and this can be 10 because these two are the same. This slot will have the same dimensions. And to fully define the sketch, I just have to add the distance between these two slots. So left-click 40 millimeters. Now we have a fully defined sketch for these two slots. The last sketch tool we will see in this tutorial is the Polygon, so let's select it. The way you start a command is same as for everything else. So left-click, let's start from the origin to automatically add a coincidence relation, and another click anywhere in the sketch area. Now, here, in the Polygon options, you can change the number of sides that this polygon will have. For example, if I want a triangle, I will type in 3. Let's scroll a bit outwards. Or if I want a rectangle, I can say 4 sides, maybe 5 or 6 or 15, how many you want. But let's keep it 64 now. Okay, let's press Escape to exit command. I see that this sketch is underdefined, and by dragging, I can see that I can change the dimension, actually, the size of this polygon. What I have to do is add a smart dimension. For example, from this side to this side, let's say 80 millimeters. And still, it is not defined, but I cannot change the dimension by dragging, but I can rotate it. So I can say, for example, that this point and origin are vertical. And now we have a fully defined sketch. Let's make a part in which we will use some of the sketch tools that we saw today. Let's delete this. I will exit the sketch and start all over. We can start sketching on the top plane, for example. Right-click Sketch, and SolidWorks will immediately change the view so that we are looking normal to the top plane. Let's start by using a center rectangle. We will snap it to the origin point. Drag outwards. We can add 100 millimeters for the vertical line and 150 for the horizontal line. Immediately, we have this sketch fully defined. Let's add a circle, for example, in this corner. Let's make it 10 millimeters to fully define it. Let's say the distance from the horizontal line is 15. We can add a center point slot here. I was napped to the diagonal line. I can see that this point of the slot is vertical to the center of the circle. Let's add some dimensions here. For example, 12 millimeters for the center to center distance and 10 millimeters for the width of the slot. I can add another center point slot here. And I can say that it is equal to this slot here, and also horizontal to the center of the circle. Let's add another center point slot here. I can say that these 2 points are vertical, and these 2 slots are equal. Okay? Now we can extrude this sketch. Let's say mid-plane 10 millimeters. Okay. Now we have a sort of plate that looks like a foot for some steel structure. But I will press space and get this orientation box and look at it from the top. I want to make this slot look like a small cross or plus sign. We can start sketching on this surface by right-clicking and press sketch, or I can sketch on the top plane. It doesn't matter because the top plane is still somewhere in the middle of this part. For this example, we can start by drawing on this flat surface. I can see normal too, and it will bring me back to look normal to this surface. Let's add a center point slot. Okay, I want this slot to be exactly in the middle of this other slot. The way I can do this is by clicking on this drop-down menu and selecting right. By right-clicking on the sketch, click Show. Now I can see the sketch that has been used to extrude this boss, and I can simply drag it into the point that is actually the middle of the previous slot. I have to say that this is horizontal. And let's see if I can add equal relation. No, I have to add dimensions. Let's say that this is 12, and this is 10 millimeters. Let's go to Features, Extrude Cut, and we can say through for the direction through all both. This means that it will extrude through everything. It goes in front of it. Let's say we can now hide this sketch by right-clicking Hide. We can add, for example, a small hole for the nut to be held in position. For this is small hole here. Let's right-click Sketch, Normal to select Polygon. We have 6 sides, and if I hover over the edge of this circle, this hole, I will get this small center point and just drag. I have to add a dimension, for example, 15. And I have to say that this point is vertical. Sorry, these are. Okay, it won't let me. But what I can do is add a small center line from this point to the center of the circle. And let's say that this is vertical. Another way I can do it is to delete this center line, and I will simply say that this line, vertical, okay, let's change the view a bit by holding the scroll button, go to Features Extrude Cut. I will change the direction to blind. And for example, 5 millimeters, this will make a hole 5 millimeters deep that looks like a nut. We can add some chamfers, outer edges, let's say that they are 1 millimeter, and we can select these 4 sides of the plate and say OK. Press space to enter the orientation cube, and let's select isometric view. And there we go. I hope you like this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.